I'm with the best friend. Sorry.
How we doing, everybody? It's Jimmy King with WrestleLaunch, and it is time for me to kind of give you guys that project that I've been working on, because here's the deal, guys. We need to get very serious really quick here, so I'm going to take off my hat, and I'm going to do this. We need to have a conversation about TNA on AMC, because I'm going to be honest with you. I have absolutely no idea what the hell they are doing on AMC networks. Now, here's the thing. In professional wrestling, if you can surprise a fan of the game or the sport, whatever, like you can myself, kind of like how AEW has done with Darby Allin, and sometimes WWE ends up doing, depending upon what they do, because they do surprise me on occasion. There's also MLW, New Japan, and a few other ones out there that do actually manage to surprise me on occasion, because it's kind of hard to surprise somebody like myself, or even Paul, who has been around for a while, even Angel, who has been watching wrestling for as long as he has, usually can pick up on things. So it's usually good to surprise professional wrestling fans, but in the sense of TNA's impact on AMC, I don't think it's working. And I'm going to be honest with you. I've tried. I really have tried. We're putting the hat back on here because we got to. And honestly, I've really tried to understand, because on paper this should be a good thing, but the more I look at it, the less it makes sense. And so for anyone who missed it, TNA is now airing on AMC, its weekly Impact television show that airs on Thursday night. Now, as I record this, it's actually Thursday, and they will be airing a little bit more than an hour and a half. They will be airing their Impact specials on AMC. Now, AMC is built on reputation similar to The Walking Dead and Breaking Bad, and they've had a lot of other television shows. It's called the American Movie Channel for a reason. It's cinematic. It's supposed to be something good. AMC is a perfect place for TNA because they do like their cinematic matches, and they do like their cinematic moments. So at the end of the day, AMC is not just a random cable channel. It's a network with a real brand identity. People know about AMC. They know it well. They know what it stands for. So they understand that when you hear it, it's like, okay, that's a level up for TNA, because TNA has kind of been all over the place. They've been on Pop Network. They've been on Spike TV back in the day when they first started airing. They were on Fox Sports Net, which I think is called something else now. It's like, starts with a B. They've been all over the place. So AMC is kind of their version of TNT when WCW was coming up. So at the end of the day, it's not as big as you would think, because to me, what the problem that I'm seeing is the crowd gets burnt out quickly. Okay, so for me, their recording schedule is a little bit weird. They do travel around, but they do 2 days, sometimes 3-day recordings, and then they do these postings and stuff, and you can literally see people post things online. Like, I want to say about a month ago, I saw somebody post online about the Broken Matt Hardy character, and he only just debuted last week. So when you come down to it, though, I want to know, who are these shows for? Because the crowd, and a lot of people I've seen online, Reddit and other places have said things, they're not necessarily happy. There are a lot of TNA diehardists that they're just not going to see anything wrong with it, which is totally fine. Be happy. You do your thing. I'm cool with it. But what is the ultimate end goal for TNA on AMC here? Because they haven't changed their schedule. You would think that because they have the option to have live shows and other stuff like that with AMC, that they would change things up a little bit to kind of get their crowd to be a little bit more into it. And they do have a B show that they have. I think it's called Explosion or something along that line. Now, here's the thing. When they go over, and this is what I'm talking about, when they go over to AMC, there's no a clear shift in what they're doing. They haven't changed much. It's still the same product that they were doing on Pop versus what they're doing on AMC. It's literally the exact same thing. Usually when TV shows and when products start something else, something new, they start with a big brand show. Now, growing up, when WWF would debut on USA Network and UPN, and they'd bounce back and forth when they went to other places, like when they were on TNN, they always had those big shows to say, we're here, this is what we're doing. Even when TNA tried to go head to head with Raw on Monday nights, they failed to have that. And we're not going to really talk about that day in TNA lore, because at the end of the day, no one really wants to. But ultimately, it does create a lot of confusion. And it's okay to pre-record, but there's still a good amount of visibility versus accessibility when it comes to pre-recorded content, because you have your talent only really being able to do things once or twice a day per month or so when you do your recordings, and then they end up actually going out and doing other things. So they have to make sure that they can't wrestle on a Thursday night to keep up the kayfabe that the show is going on, even though everybody knows that it's pre-recorded. But just because something is recognizable on the network, that does not mean that people are going to watch it. You need the promotion, the integration, and a reason to care for it, and that's where I'm lost on what they're doing on AMC, because otherwise it's just a show that people are going to click past, or in this day and age, scroll past. And when you see before in other wrestling shows, and if you compare TNA to AEW and WWE and New Japan and MLW and NWA and so on and so forth, they have their own brand identity that they can lean on, but they choose not to. They are using people from other places that they don't necessarily need to. And when it comes down to it, when you're putting your shows in small venues, it works. As long as you're doing those shows more often, less frequently in recordings, because the audience will overlap and you adapt that product to that audience. So if you have an audience that is sitting through 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 matches in 2 sittings, they're going to get wore out and they're not going to give you the type of hype that you genuinely need. And at that point, that is where your frustration comes. And that's where the frustration comes for a lot of fans, because TNA isn't positive and they're not in a great position that they can afford to be negative. And they can't just experiment things randomly. And again, this is where you lean into AMC being kind of a movie channel. You can do your cinematic stuff. I like the fact that they have the cinematics with the Broken Hardys in the past, and it looks like they're leaning towards doing something like that with the Righteous. That's fine. You get the underworld stuff with Rosemary and bringing back Allie from the dead and all that stuff. That's fine. Do that. That's totally cool. But the other stuff that they're doing, bringing in EC3 and having him job to Eric Young, which doesn't make a lot of sense, but obviously they have a plan. It doesn't, to me, mean that they're giving the show an opportunity for momentum. They built EC3 up as this big name in in TNA's history, and then they have him job to Eric Young. Why? What is the move to that? And every move should feel intentional. That doesn't feel intentional. That just feels like we got a deal and we're going to, here, get on TV. And that's where you run into a problem when you run into these recording schedules. If you do a 2-day recording schedule for a 3-day show, that means that things are going to be split up and people are going to have different energies. You can have a crowd be different when it's 2 different days, but that energy, if you have it split up between 2 days, where if you cut the first half on the one day and then the second half on the next day, the crowd energy is going to be different. So, in my opinion, what should they do? They really need to lean on AMC's character-driven movie content. It's wrestling. It fits there, especially TNA. They can do the cinematic stuff. They should do the cinematic stuff. That's where they need to have it. Because at the end of the day, TNA is not AEW. TNA is not WWE. TNA is not what WCW was, even if it was created in the ashes of what that memorialized. There are a lot of other promotions out there doing a lot of other things. So at the end of the day, TNA needs to lean on who they are, and they are a cinematic company. Tommy Dreamer and Delirious are the ones that are booking a lot of these matches, and it kind of seems to me that they're just phoning in a couple of these matches. They're throwing things here and there. Some of the matches are okay and they're doing well. Mike Santana versus Rich Swann was actually pretty good and really decent. I'm really happy about that one. It did kind of come up out of nowhere, but I do like seeing Rich Swann get an opportunity because he is an athlete. But ultimately, I really want to see Impact get turned around by TNA on AMC. I personally gave up doing the reviews weekly because I got tired of trying to make it sound more interesting than it was. I am still watching it, and if it starts to pick back up, I will pick it back up. And I'm also going to try to pay attention to the pay-per-views, which I will try to do the reviews on at the very least. But I want to know, what do you guys think? What is your take? How do you feel about TNA Impact on AMC? Because in my opinion, it's struggling. But you might enjoy it. And again, at the end of the day, my opinion is not the only opinion that matters. I want to know what you think. So make sure you like, comment, subscribe. Let us know. Share it with your friends. Share it with people. And let people tell you what they think. Because at the end of the day, wrestling is for everyone. And it's about that communication. It should not be tribal. So let's not make it tribal. I'm getting out of here. Thank you guys very much for watching this. Again, I'm Jimmy King with WrestleLaunch. And I got 4 simple rules. Stay safe. Stay sane. Stay healthy. And above all else, love professional wrestling. I'll catch you guys in the next one.